Welcome, everyone, to the Winning Together podcast. This is Shay, the Coach Aslip, inviting you to come along and adventure with me in the first of a three-part series of a hero's journey. What is a hero's journey? Where do you start? Are you in one? Are you the hero of your own journey? Find out how we walk through a client's journey where they started owning their story, becoming the author, and seeing themselves as the hero and not the zero in their life. What is the call to action? What is the ordinary experience they're willing and ready to let go of? Find out today on the Winning Together podcast. Welcome, everyone, to the Winning Together podcast. If you're joining us today, you're supposed to be. Good to have you. You will get great value out of your time you spend with us. Something very special about today is you've got recovery sliced and diced 4 different ways. You have the clinician, the coach leader, and the client today, breaking down, I think, really the hero's journey as we talk about the recovery process. So we've got a client on the Winning Together podcast today who is demonstrating in their life a desire to do the work, be accountable, and show up in ways that are meaningful, and has attracted this opportunity to give some insight and some value. So we're going to keep it generic today. You've got the clinician, the coach, the leader of the coaching, and you've got the client. So as we're talking and as we're going through, I want you to think about how that might affect you. Now, recovery applies to everyone, all the time, everywhere. Either you're in it, you've been in it, or you know somebody who needs it, who needs or wants your help to connect. So actually, I'm going to turn it over to the clinician. Give us a little intro of what you're seeing in the recovery space right now and what you'd like to see.
So it's been a little bit different this 2020 year. We've talked about it a little bit before. And some of the space that I'm looking at that's different is, it's pretty acceptable to stay home and do nothing right now and not move forward. Now that can translate over to the whole. So the whole world's saying you're a good citizen now if you stay home and do nothing and don't move forward. But in recovery, that's just an excuse to not progress and not to move in a direction that's actually profiting your life. So that's been kind of a big shift this year, especially, is the acceptance of not progressing. That being said, those who are progressing are still progressing. They're still working through, still figuring it out. But it has felt like there's been a lot more sludge to sludge through this year, and this last few months especially, as it's kind of gone on. This pandemic stuff's gone on. So just from my view, we've been busier. We've had a lot more phone calls, a lot more people needing help. Anxiety and depression levels seem to be up. Addictions definitely seem to be up. Places that are willing to help people, there's not quite as many out there. I think there's been some caution to slow down, but the need is still really high. So just from my side of it, I'm seeing this need's very high. People still need help, but they can't lean into excuses. They still have to work hard.
So there's, when things are socially acceptable or condoned, like you said, it's really easy to slide into this justification space. So from an absolute value standpoint, as far as you're a joyful, happy person who's feeling connected with your life versus somebody who is adjusting to the acceptable range, what's not acceptable about accepting that socially acceptable attitude?
You just don't have time to burn. I mean, the time has gone by, where you can sit back and wait, especially now. Just in general, just every general human being shouldn't be wasting their time right now. We should be grateful for what we have. So this just isn't anything acceptable about wasting time. Time is it's a finite resource that's starting to run out in a lot of ways, especially if you're in recovery. Everyone knows that. If you don't take your time wisely now, it could be your last chance. So we don't know what next year holds. We don't know what the next 6 months hold right now. there hasn't been a time more uncertain in the world, let alone in recovery. So I would just say we can't take advantage of that time. We need to be using it as an opportunity to grow and to get through not just life, but also the early stages of recovery and beyond.
So, leader of the coaches, how you doing?
Incredible. How are you?
I can tell. I can see that actually. So, this podcast is sponsored by I'm Recovery. Jared Casey was a clinician you just heard. Chris Aviers, who runs Point for the coaches, which is a unique way that they approach their recovery, is connecting the time that you're in recovery to your life experience outside of that. We've got a client that you work with on today. Why did you want to have them on our Winning Together podcast today?
Several reasons, but there are a few factors. This gentleman has won in his life before, and it's amazing to me when we win, when we're going in that hero's journey that you brought up earlier, that it's easy to forget those wins. It's easy to get focused on all the troubles, all the trials, all the things that are hard in our life, and they can bring us down. And it's amazing to me how once you get to hear a little bit of the story and you get to understand him a little bit better, how really the hard things he has gone through. And then seeing him come back from that and realizing that when you look at this man specifically, you sit there and go, it's amazing to me in how short a time you can restore integrity. You can become that champion inside. You can do those hard things and win in your life. And you can show up not just for yourself, but for your kids, for your spouse, for the people that are around you, and you can be that example. And I think he is one of the most congruent, integrous person that I know, and it's absolutely amazing how in a short time he's changed that thing inside him to go, no, that's the old me. I'm gonna kill that old self, and I'm gonna restore and come out this new me. And I think that's really the reason that I want to have him on.
So, one thing that I've found essentially vitally value add that you have really owned in your life is tough love. It's tough, but it's still love. What's something that you love about this client and where they're at that you're really proud of them for either doing or being or the way they're showing up?
So I love tough love. I think that actually is love. I think when we are so easy on people, that actually most of the time ends up not being love. That ends up being some sort of codependency, and it's an issue with yourself. The thing that I see is that he was able to look at these limiting beliefs that he had for years. And he was able to go, wow, this is something that I actually don't believe I can do. When we first met, he had these things and he said oh, I can only run this distance. And yet he was willing to come out and challenge that, because it's easy to sit home and have that limiting belief and go, this is just true. I believe it. It's true. Yet he was willing to go, I'm going to go on this journey with you and accept what comes from it. Not expect that I have to do this or do that, but that I can understand that there's something more inside me than I give myself credit for. And I think that's truly the greatest gift that we can give each other with tough love, is helping us all understand that there is greatness inside each and every one of us. It's not all the same for each and every one of us. It's all different. But there is greatness, and there is more than we have or than we give ourselves credit for that we have that is inside. And those limiting beliefs are what hold us back, and I think he is very effective at taking those limiting beliefs, looking at them, going and taking action on those to start to poke holes in those limiting beliefs and start to go, wow, I didn't realize that I wasn't giving myself as much credit as I should have. And there is so much more. And that's what I'm ready to attack and continue to pursue and understand as the journey is going, okay, that's the next limiting belief I'm going to go face and go get.
So I think that's really, as you listen to this, if you can think of a framework of the hero's journey, and if you're not familiar with that, it's a Joseph Campbell model, and Star Wars is a classic way to think about it, and the Skywalker's path he travels and how they want to go on this journey and they want to slay the dragons, then it becomes to really doing the work, and it's oh, maybe I don't want this so much, and to the point where they kind of reject it, and people have to show up and guide them. Before we turn the time over to our hero today, Jared, can you speak a little bit how the program that sponsors this, and how programs can really effectively build trust with clients so that they're willing to go on that hero's journey with the coach or with the clinician or the people that are showing up in their lives.
So there's probably just a few simple things. We could probably spend a lot of time on this, but one of the main things we look at is, are we willing to do the work with our clients? Not for our clients, not on our own, but with them. So we seek to meet them where they're at in their journey. And when we meet them where they're at, we're going to go as hard as they're willing to go. So that's what a good highlight that I really appreciate about head coach over here, Chris Avery. He goes hard, very hard. And when he meets a client that's willing to go very hard, you've got two colossal forces working together to create something really special. Now, that's what we hope to instill in all of our team, all of our coaches, all of our counselors. Not every client meets us where we're at, but we seek to be that. The second layer to that is that we look at always being there for someone when they need it. So early in recovery especially, there's moments of momentum and there's moments of worry, regression, sadness, loneliness, just all these difficult moments that are very hard to weather alone. So our mission there is no one needs to weather that alone. We need to make sure everyone knows that there's someone there for everybody, period. That's where we initially looked at coaching was a 2-year plan. If someone gets into recovery, those first 2 years, they should never be alone. They should always have access to somebody 24 hours a day, essentially, that can pick up a phone. So we try to increase that network from friends, coaches, counselors, good, healthy environments so that you don't have to weather those storms alone. So those are the two factors I look at mostly right now, is the meet with your clients where they're at and then not letting them go alone.
We found, and the core axiom here is you win together. And if you're not winning, I'm not winning. And it's allowing people to see you. And I mean, like the movie Avatar, see you as a person and where you're at and your possibilities, and not just the mess ups and the mistakes and where you are now, but who you can become or who you are becoming. I love that. Great points. So, Hero, tell me, why are you here today?
First of all, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for having me. I would say that the reason why I'm here today is because I've been able to really hit my recovery as hard as I possibly can. And what that's done is it's given me progress. And I love what you guys were talking about in the beginning about how things are going this year, because it's such a trap to have my old thinking patterns pop up and have all these reasons for me to just sit home and not do the hard things. And those old thought patterns that I'm working on replacing right now just take over. And so what I have to do is I have to work against that all the time. So what I mean by that is I have to constantly just focus on making progress every day, even if it's just 1%, like Jared says. And that's by having integrity with myself and doing the things that I tell myself I'm going to do on a daily basis. And I would say it started with little things. And as I can knock down those little things consistently, they've grown into much bigger things.
Yeah, the little things to do are the easy things to do are the easy things not to do. And I think that's where so many people have that wake up like, how did my life get here? It's the easy, small things. Okay? So, and I want you guys to have context. First of all, I want you to like really feel his smile. So your smile is magical. So keep on sharing that because you can feel it and hear it. And this guy's played at D1 college football level. So when you think about like hitting your recovery, just imagine that like crunch of pads and helmets and just energy that you're bringing to being a happy person. So tell me a little bit about where you are at on your hero's journey.
So where I'm at right now is I'm working on nailing down a consistent routine, which it's consistent, but I'm still kind of developing that, adding to it, taking away every day, and also a consistent ritual, okay? And so I'm the type of person I learn through repetition, and it's so easy for me as I'm working on growth every day for my attention to just bounce around to different places, and then I end up getting nothing. And so when I find something that works for me, I just commit to it, have discipline towards it, and just repetition, and keep doing it until it becomes part of my subconscious is what the goal is.
Wow, that's really big. So how do you confront the boredom and the distraction?
You know, I used to really shame myself a lot for falling into the boredom and the distraction. But the way I confront it now is I make a game plan for what I'm going to do the next day. And as long as I accomplish those things, then I have time for a little bit of boredom and a little bit of distraction.
Oh, I love that. You know, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, like, it's harmony, right? It's about creating harmony. And sometimes that boredom and distraction or that downtime, what I've learned, it's necessary for me to repair and for me to continue on this path of recovery.
So have you gotten the feedback in your life that you don't finish things, that you are all in or all out, that you don't follow through? And so that's part of the shaming process. So how do you confront that feedback now? Or differently, or engage it differently?
Yeah, that's a great question. I look at my life now as like a constant meditation, and here's what I mean by that.
Interesting.
Here's what I mean by that. Meditation is about bringing it back, right? However you choose to meditate, it's about you get distracted and you bring it back. So my life now is a constant meditation. When I start worrying about all the things that are coming or everything that's happening down the road, in the past I've been a walking ball of fear, and that fear takes over and takes control of me. So what I do is I get back to my constant life meditation and I bring it back to what I'm doing right now in the present moment. My list of things that I told myself I'd accomplish today, that I will accomplish today, and then I make sure I do those things. What I say I do.
Jared pointed out the worth. How have you allowed yourself to be a worthy person?
That's been a really tough one for me. And I know it's the most important. I've got a teenage daughter, and I see how much it affects her, you know, especially with what they're facing these days with social media, and that's a whole nother topic. But the worth thing, creating that self-worth, it's amazing. It all comes back to integrity. When I'm doing those little things that I tell myself I'm gonna do today, even as small, it started with making sure I make my bed every morning. Making sure if you walk into my room, it looks like a display. Everything's perfectly organized. Never leaving a dish in the sink, okay? So it started off with just little things like that. Those have become habits now. And I'm just slowly developing and nailing down that routine. But having that integrity or that follow through with myself is what's growing my self-worth more than anything else, really. And then of course seeking knowledge and then applying it right away.
For sure, for sure. One of the things that you brought up in kind of thinking about why you want to be here is shattering limiting beliefs. So you have done that at times of your life, and you've let those also totally just shatter you. So how are you like flipping that script at this time?
Yeah, I mean, the first thing I'll say is that I have shattered some limiting beliefs, and I also still have some limiting beliefs that are winning the battle with me right now.
What's one you're particularly proud of you've taken the sledgehammer to?
So my entire life, I grew up playing athletics at a very competitive level, fast twitch muscles, being able to run sprints, short sprints, but never long distance. The way I'm built, you know, all the wear and tear on my knees, shins, ankles, all that, it's impossible for me to run long distance. About 7 weeks ago, the furthest I'd ever run was outside was 5 miles, and that was a huge stretch. I was so proud of myself for running a 5K. I always said it would be impossible for me to ever...
5K or 10K?
Just a 5K.
So 3 miles is all you've ran.
I thought that I was
Okay.
a hero.
Okay.
And, but I've always told myself, for me to run a half marathon, that would be impossible. 7 weeks after I set out to, it started with me committing to being able to run 10 miles sometime. But 7 weeks later, I ran 15 miles, and it felt good. It felt really, really good. And in 2 weeks, I'm going for the full marathon.
Wow.
Incredible.
Okay. So you're going after, bad, unhealthy beliefs, unhealthy belief systems. You're making progress, you're showing up, you're working your program, and tell me how your life has gone sideways. Thank you for joining us on this Winning Together podcast. This is the first of a 3-part series of a hero's journey. Find out more on episode 2 of The Hero's Journey. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you.